if you're a desert person and you have access to prickly pear, and if you see this white stuff on them, you're gonna learn today what to do with that white stuff, that cochineal, and how to turn it into a paint, which is a really, really beautiful color. So let's do it. So when I touch it, it's white, but then I crush it. And when you crush it, you're crushing the bodies of insects, and it turns pink. And that pink stuff is a dye that's been used for a really long time. Okay, so I'm sitting on my patio, and I collected my cochineal with a knife, and I scraped it into this bowl. And now we're gonna turn that into some paint. So I have a cup of water and some paint brushes. So I'm gonna I have a ceramic palette. You could use a paper plate, you could use a glass plate, a ceramic plate, doesn't really matter. And you just wanna collect some of that stuff and put it in your palette. And you're gonna start kind of crushing that stuff with your brush. You don't really want to touch it with your fingers because there are tiny microscopic little thorns from the prickly pear in there, and if you touch them like I just did, they get in your finger. So you don't really want to do that. This brush is a little floppy, so I'm going to kind of like use the back of my knife and just start crushing the cochineal, because those are actually, this video is not for vegans. I'm really sorry, but I'm killing bugs right now. So I'm killing bugs. If you are a vegan, you might want to look away, just press stop, don't watch. But as I crush the cochineal, it begins to turn into like a beautiful red paste. So you've been drinking cochineal way more than you realize in like strawberry lemonade, pink lemonade. Cochineal is in pink lemonade unless it says vegan, in which case they're using like some sort of commercial synthetic or natural food dye. But this is also in lipstick. It's in a lot of products. It's been around for a long time. I'm actually going to research some science about it because I have a book that details the history of colors and pigments used by artists for thousands of years. So you can see it's kind of turning into a nice pigment. So once you have that kind of pulverized, and you could keep going, but for the purposes of this, I'm going to stop. You can add a little bit of water and keep working it with your brush. And now you can grab your paper. Any paper is fine. You know how printer paper will shred if you get water on it because it doesn't like water. But if that's all you have, then that's all you have. I'm using a piece of watercolor paper. You could use sketchbook paper. And I just want you to start playing with it and noticing what can happen. Now, if I wanted to filter out, like if I wanted to make a big batch of this and you have a lot of cochineal, you could filter out all those little blobs by screening it through some sort of cheesecloth or something like that. But you'll notice that I'm now painting with something that was in my yard. So I love to use non-traditional art materials. I love to use things that I didn't buy at the art supply store. When I was in art school, we would have challenges. I had this incredible teacher named Al DeCredico. Shout out to all my RISD peeps if you are watching. And Al DeCredico was incredible, and he taught us to look at the world in a really different and unconventional way. And some of his homework would be stuff like go into the shower and paint what you see, or paint with peanut butter. And he was not interested in getting his students to go to the art supply store, and really wanting people to think about kind of how people have always related to art making, which is what pigments can I use? How can I make art that's an experience? How can I make art that is something other than just a store-bought material to tell the story I'm trying to tell? So I think if he were here right now, I think he'd be proud of this activity. So what I'm doing is I'm painting a prickly pear right now with stuff from a prickly pear. You get it? I'm even gonna make those little like prickly pear flowers that live on the edge of a prickly pear. Of course, you could paint anything you wanted. This, once it dries, I have to tell you, it's drying less purplish, more kind of like a gray. It's a really beautiful color. I don't really mind all these little bits that are in it. I think they're kind of interesting. But I would love to see what you can do if you are using something like cochineal. What kind of story do you want to tell with it? What would you want to say? Prickly pear. Didn't see me. Hi. So, story time with Miss Bloomston. I have some books on color that are really cool. My husband's book. Do you want to show your face? Okay, come in here. This is my husband in the backyard. And that's our dog. Okay. That's Mr. Bloomston, although he has a different last name. Okay, so this book on color is really cool. I'm reading from this book, The Secret Lives of Color. Page 141, we're going to go into cochineal. Cochineal, C-O-C-H-I-N-E-A-L. Okay. Viewed with the naked eye, the female Dactylopius coccus could be mistaken for a seed or a piece of grit. Scarcely bigger than a pinhead, it is a gray, slightly ridged oval. It was only when one was examined under a microscope, I don't know if you can see, but the like webbing around it, that's kind of like a cocoon. Inside there are these things that look like seeds. The things that look like seeds are the actual insect. It was only when one was examined under a microscope at the very end of the 17th century that lingering doubts were put to rest. Dactylopius coccus is in fact an insect. And while it may look inconsequential, this insect has made and felled kings and empires and helped shape history. Today, the cocci are most likely to be encountered in Mexico or South America or Arizona, where we live, huddled in a snowy white cluster, that snowy white powdery stuff, on the sunny side of a prickly pear cactus leaf, on which they feed exclusively and voraciously. If you were to pluck one off and squeeze hard enough to crush it, your guilty fingers would be stained bright crimson, and they would hurt because you'd have cactus spines in them. Turning this bright red bug juice into a dye, often called carmine, is relatively easy. One needs only the insects and a more... So, beetles are still being harvested today to produce the cochineal used by the cosmetics and food industries. It is found in everything. Get this, people. From M&Ms to sausages to red velvet cupcakes to cherry Coke. How you feeling now, huh? You're eating some bugs. I do actually worry that vegans don't know that and they're ingesting it. To soothe the squeamish, it is usually hidden under the far more innocuous label E120. So now you know if you read something that has E120 in it, you're eating dead bugs or you're using them on your skin. There are signs, however, that humanity's appetite for cochineal may finally be waning. In 2012, Starbucks abandoned it as the principal red food coloring in strawberry frappuccinos and cake pops after an outcry from vegetarians and Muslims. Excellent news for Dactylopius cactus, but perhaps less so for the world's prickly pears. So, now you have learned the history of the cochineal, and I hope you go make something with it if you have it near you. Bye! Thumbs up. Go make something. Art class is in.